Okay, we're back for part two of the show. We've been having some technical issues the last few weeks, but we're back. Um, we finished off. We were talking about like best cult movies and stuff. Now we're talking about best cameos in movies. And Chris has a whole bunch. I got a few myself. I'll let Chris start it off, and we'll just go back and forth off each other.
Best cameos in movies. I'm like, me and Mike were talking about this off there the other day. There's a couple of really good ones. I think the one that I started off with Mike was we were talking about Huey Lewis in Back to the Future.
Classic.
As far as there's been a lot of them that we kind of went over off screen. That comes to mind. There were a couple good ones. There's some obscure ones that I guess happened in, maybe 25, 30 years ago, Mike. I think you brought up a couple of them. I think David Bowie and Zoolander was an important one.
Yeah, he was out of nowhere cameo. Pretty good.
You got Brett Favre in Something Called Mary, right? Something About Mary. You've got, I guess in TV shows, like we talked a little bit about, I don't know if it was more of like actors versus characters. You had Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One, and then you had Skywalker at the end of The Mandalorian, right?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think you picked up on either one of those watching that. So
no, I was
like, they were great surprises. I mean, the Vader scene at the end of Rogue One, and then what it leads into is one of the best scenes in Star Wars movies in the last like 25 years, basically. I think anyway. Rogue One to me is one of the most underrated ones because it's not in the canon. It's a Star Wars story. It's not in the sequence. It's considered the Star Wars story. It really was one of the best movies they put out the last few years.
I gotta be honest with you, Mike. Maybe we've talked about it at some point. I think that outside of maybe Empire Strikes Back, it's probably my favorite Star Wars. To be honest.
Yeah, it really was a surprise movie when you watched it. You were like, I wasn't expecting that much, but man, like, it's true though. It all built up to that ending, and it was awesome. I actually have a Star Wars related cameo that I just thought of. We go back to 1980, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
A movie called Apocalypse Now, and the beginning of the movie, Harrison Ford does a cameo, giving Martin Sheen his orders to go kill Kurtz. Now,
great pickup.
Now, the best part about this is a great trivia question. What is Harrison Ford's character's name in the movie? And it's a super inside. It's an inside baseball joke, basically. And if you look at his uniform, it says the name.
No, I thought he was named after a director, to be honest. My father was close with Harrison Ford when he lived in the building and stuff. So he's definitely brought that up to me. And I knew he was in Apocalypse Now. I'm just trying to think of the baseball player. I thought it was a director that he was named after. But
Yep.
You're right. It's right after his. It's right on his uniform. I'm drawing a blank. I'm gonna have to Google search it. I definitely know the answer.
It's a ground ball, George Lucas.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, they said that was the inside joke of the thing, George Lucas. Another one of my favorite cameos, he's got two of them, is Mike Myers. I love him in Bohemian Rhapsody as the record exec because he makes a Wayne's World reference in it, which is hilarious.
Right.
And I love him in Inglourious Bastards as the general or whatever he was, when he gives Fassbender's character the lowdown of working with the bastards, as they're known.
I'm a huge fan of that movie, Inglourious Bastards. I've watched it. A little far-fetched for me. It was entertaining, but no, I thought the cameo piece is really good. I think we brought up Frank Oz, right?
Yeah, Frank Oz has been in a whole bunch of like John Landis movies, the Blues Brothers stuff, right?
Yep, showed up in the Blues Brothers. He showed up in I think Trading Places.
Yeah, he's always a cop too. It seems like they threw him in a cop in like the Blues Brothers 2000, and Trading Places.
And you said he was friends with the director, right?
Yeah, him and John Landis, I think, have worked together. They're friends. I mean, Frank Oz has directed his own bunch of movies as well. I mean, what did he do?
Mhm.
What's his big one? I think Frank Oz directed Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, if I'm not mistaken.
Wasn't he behind the Muppets, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, he was fucking Grover on like the Muppets and a whole bunch of other. You know, he was the voice of Yoda, right? Yeah, you know,
right. Yeah,
he
yeah,
helped
yeah.
create Yoda. Yeah, he was behind. Yeah, Frank Oz behind the Muppets. It was him and Jim. Well, it was Jim Henson's idea. I think he was considered like the head puppeteer, but he helped create all those characters, a bunch of the characters that you saw in like Sesame Street as a kid. What else did they do? The Dark Crystal. I think Frank Oz directed the Dark Crystal too, which was just
Oh,
all
such,
puppet.
oh, such a horrible movie, man.
That's such an 80s throwback, that movie. And it's back on like Stars or something. And I'll watch it. I give it like a 10-minute window
so
every
so bad.
I,
I
I
remember the comic books were there.
Oh yeah, yeah. It had all that commercial crossover stuff. Like the movie came out, then it was like the comic book, the dolls, all that crap. I think they even did a cartoon version of it. But yeah, it was just a bad. Yeah, I think the movie made like not a lot of money, but it was
So bad.
known. But the movie was supposed to be known because it was like there wasn't one human actor in it. It was just all puppets and whatever else the hell they used.
Brutal watch.
Mm-hmm.
Something else comes to mind. Never ending story. No real good cameos in there, but just same time period and just such a dreadful movie.
Well, I think the never-ending story holds more because I've heard people younger than us talk about the never-ending story, but I've never heard them
Watch it,
talk about, that have seen it. Yeah, but they've never seen like Dark. They have no idea what Dark Crystal is.
Okay.
So I definitely because never-ending story also had a sequel. I think we were like old. I think it was like 5 or 6 years after the original.
Yeah, like late.
Oh, we never.
80s,
Yeah. So
I'll tell you what really looks good, Mike, is the Obi-Wan series. I mean, I caught the teaser trailer of it, which looks phenomenal, and I'm reading a lot of stuff where like looks like we're gonna get looks like we're gonna get that sequel. As far as the rematch, between Vader and Kenobi, and it looks like he's gonna be. I guess hunted down. They're going to be hunting Skywalker and the kids, Leia and stuff. That looks really good.
I'm assuming most of the backstory is like you didn't see. We don't know what happened when Luke grew up out there on Tatooine. Right. Was it just fucking what's his face? Was it just Obi-Wan Kenobi just killing fucking stormtroopers and fighting Darth Vader like once a week because they were looking for this kid? I mean, I'm thinking that's going to be along the storylines. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking we're in that kind of that area of where they knew where he was. I mean, okay, let's go full tinfoil hat conspiracy theory kind of. We all know the Star Wars canon. If Vader's one of the strongest Jedis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then he's going to know where people that have the Force in them are at all times. So he knows where his kids are then. Right?
I think he's got an idea of it.
You know what I'm saying? So,
but I read they've got like some sort of bounty hunters looking after him or trying to find him, and I think that they're called the Inquisitors. And I guess if you watch like some of like the cartoon stuff, the animated Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, like that's what I've heard. Yeah. They introduce those characters where we have no idea who they are unless you watch exactly Clone Wars. And
some of it I watched. I mean, I'm a little bit of a Star Wars nerd. I'm not like a
I never did Clone Wars. I never got into it. And one of the guys I used to work with told me, he's like, "You're missing out. You're missing out. Get in on."
It's good. It's good. It's just it's all animated, and after a while, listen, there was a lot of storylines. I guess the Bad Batch or whatever the hell was that was another sequel, another animated series. That was pretty good. But for me, Mike, once you get past like the main characters and the Skywalkers and Vader, it becomes really tough for me to follow. Like it was tough for me. Like I like the Mandalorian and stuff, but like the Boba Fett series, it wore on me after a while. It's not that I didn't enjoy it, but it's like some of the storylines are just so off the beaten path of the main Star Wars saga. It was very difficult for me to follow that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it does. If you're not, like you said, if it's not pulling at the old sentimental heartstrings, you kind of like, I don't care about General Grievous. You know,
Yeah.
he's just introduced, or whoever else. You know, whatever
Vice
character.
versa, and vice versa. For me, like Rogue One was kind of like off the beaten path. I mean, it kind of tied it in on some level towards the end, but a lot of that was characters that weren't really associated with the Skywalkers, which I was cool with. Because it kind of tied in. When you start going off the beaten path with some of these characters and these storylines, it gets real. It gets real tough. Even like the new sequel and stuff. It was difficult, when they started focusing in, like on the Rays and, I guess I don't even remember the guy's name, Finn, or the other guy, Poe, or whatever the hell his name is.
It was just like, listen, we're trying to get another group of kids, another generation to get into this. Or like you said, I could care less about really those characters because I was already invested in it. They were good enough as it was, Ray, Finn, and who's the other guy? Adam Driver's character, and it was okay. I was,
Okay.
we were already hooked to begin with, so it really didn't matter by that point. We just wanted to see it. You wanted to see it come to some kind of conclusion. That's what we were really looking for. So
completely agree. Going back to the cameos for a second, I think I mentioned to you off air, Bob Barker and Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, he's a nice little Bob. Oh, but speaking of Star Wars, Daniel Craig 007. He plays a stormtrooper.
Yeah. I don't even remember where. I mean, how do you know it's him? I mean, did he take his hat off?
No,
helmet off?
I think it's just his. It's him in the suit and his voice. I think he says something. He has like 2 lines and that's it. But one of my other favorite cameos that we talked about too was I like Schwarzenegger and The Rock in The Rundown. When Schwarzenegger walks by The Rock in the beginning of The Rundown, it's one of the coolest scenes ever.
Lou Ferrigno and the Hulks, right?
Yeah, Lou Ferrigno showing up and usually with Stan Lee in those cameo roles. You could even go The Rock. I like The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson in the beginning of the other guy's movie. I thought they were hilarious. Good. That it's a great little scene. You didn't expect them to be in the movie. So,
how about I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Tyson and Hangover.
Yeah,
right?
Tyson and Hangover. Who thought he was showing up? Yeah, another guy.
Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder. Right?
Yeah, great scene. Great, yeah.
Will Ferrell at the end of Wedding Crashers.
Yep.
Meatloaf, right? How good was that? Three Stooges in it, right? The Meatloaf. Such a great scene, man. Still goof on that show 20 years later. Very underrated. Maybe we'll have to have Macho on one day and go over the rules of Wedding Crashers, the 106 rules, or whatever the hell there is. The Three Stooges and It's a Mad, Mad World. I remember watching that years ago. I'm just trying to remember I think Jack Benny was in there, Don Knotts.
There was all like those old like vaudeville timey comedians all just like pop their heads in that movie. It's such an I'm surprised that's another movie they haven't decided like how do we remake this? There's a few movies like that where it's like, oh, this is so easy to remake. Why haven't we and with CGI you can have all these crazy stunt scenes like they had in that movie and it'll cost them nothing basically.
Would you consider like I'm a big I know you are too to an extent. Would you consider like guys like Bela Lugosi or Lon Chaney, who showed up in the old Abbott and Costello movies? Do you think that would be like a surprise cameo or just
no? Because I think they had them in like playing people. I think people knew they were showing up in those movies.
Gotcha.
Playing those characters. But I mean, it's a funny one. Bob Hope in Spies Like Us, when he pops into the tent and he's in the movie for 10 seconds.
Bob Hope.
Bob Hope, man. Bob Hope.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
How about TV series?
As far as TV's harder for the cameos. But like guys just showing up. I mean, Friends had a whole bunch, and I think that was because at one time Jennifer Aniston was married to Brad Pitt. He shows up on the show. You had Paul Rudd on that show. Tom Selleck. Bruce Willis shows up on that show. You had a lot of big stars on that show. That show, to me, that's one of the biggest ones in recent times. I mean, you could even go back to like old Seinfeld. A lot of his girlfriends.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yeah,
I was just going to say the Seinfelds. The gay street toughs. You mentioned the guy with the glasses was John B, which I didn't know. Right.
Yeah.
A young Heisenberg showed up. I mean, I'm not so sure he was a surprise guest or anything, but
no, he was a nobody. Yeah, Bryan Cranston as what the hell was his name on the show? I'm blanking. Oh man, I can't believe. Yeah, he's an anti-dentite. And then Jerry has to go to like confession, and he's like telling everybody, and he's like, "No, are you offended as a Jewish person? No, I'm offended as a comedian."
He's taking jokes.
Yeah, he's doing all the Jewish jokes. I think he converted just for the jokes. Oh, Tim Whatley, right?
Tim Whatley. Yeah.
Tim Whatley.
Yeah. Which for some reason I always equate him with like Rick Astley for whatever reason. The early '90s sing "Never Gonna Give You Up, Never Gonna Let You Down."
He kind of had that. Yeah, he had the hair. He had that. He was clean shaven back then.
Which, by the way, I don't know if anybody out there, that watches the show. I think Brian does. Michael's brother, who put me onto it. I guess they made a joke about how that song has become like a cult-like status in the UK. Never Gonna Give You Up.
Oh,
and apparently there's like a whole episode of Ted Lasso that I saw where I guess the owner's father passes away, and I guess she's very melancholy, and they make a goof about that song. It's like never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. Good karaoke song, by the way, too. But
yeah, Ted. I watched him. I think we talked about this. Yeah, he did that song with the Foo Fighters. The Foo Fighters brought him out of the concert. I think they were in England, either England or maybe California.
And it's that song. I bet you it's that song. Yeah.
Oh no, they did like a punk rock version, basically, of "Never Gonna Give You Up," and he just came out, and the crowd went ballistic when he walked on that stage.
Dude, it's a big thing over in the UK, and when I do my karaoke, I can tell you there's been people, especially maybe come Halloween, we'll try to get him on the show. But the owner of Katie's, he throws a great karaoke on Main Street in Smithtown, which is where I used to go a lot. And without fail, there was at least one or two people that used to do "Never Gonna Give You Up," without fail, like each week. Very popular song. Did he show? How about 90210? Wasn't there a couple of like cameos in 90210?
I was never a big 90210 guy.
Neither was I, but growing up, in the late 80s.
You know what? They probably
90s,
did.
Get away from it.
I'll say they did just because that was like what's his face? Aaron Spelling. He was a fucking powerful dude. I could definitely see him getting like some big stars here and there. And I think that show, I'm sure too, if we deep dived it quick, you could probably go through a list of people who were nobodies on that first start on that show and then made it down the road somewhere, because he had that show going. Then what was it? Melrose Place too. I mean, Aaron Spelling had a shitload of hit shows in the 70s. So 70s, 80s, and then the 90s with 90210. He had like the most expensive house at one time in Hollywood. He had like $100 million house and like and then he put his daughter on TV.
Can you hear me okay, Mike?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, cool.
I got you. I got you. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think too, who else is a great Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. There's a scene with him without makeup in the restaurant. There's a restaurant scene and you see like his profile quick in a scene. That was like a little joke by what's his face? Christopher Nolan. Was it Cameron Diaz? I didn't know this I looked it up when we were talking about best cameos. Cameron Diaz is in the movie Minority Report.
Okay.
You see like half her face when they're on like a subway train scene. I think it's when he gets found out and he's just trying to escape from everybody. Tom Cruise is found. Like he gets on the train and you see like Cameron Diaz's face from like the nose up, and she's sitting next to Cameron Crowe, the director. What did he direct him? Jerry Maguire. I think he directed.
Yeah.
Cruise.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there's tons. I mean, moving on. We were just talking like you didn't see the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, right?
No.
It's out on Amazon. I think it's been out for like over a year, maybe 2 years. I mean, talk about cameos. Everybody's in that. Look, Chris is doing a cameo right now with Mariano Rivera on his screen. It's a cameo.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
But
I'll
I mean
be right back.
that movie is all about the cameo. It is just
Okay.
he just like everyone that he's had in movies over the years, except Bruce Willis, really, is in it because him and Bruce Willis were not getting along. They had supposedly Kevin Smith used to go on like his speaking tours, and someone brought up Bruce Willis and Cop Out, and Kevin Smith goes on this whole tear about it, saying, "Don't ever work with your heroes." Now he considered Bruce his hero. He was from Jersey. They're both from New Jersey. He loved Bruce Willis. He loved Moonlighting. He loved Die Hard. He loved all his movies. And then he finally got to work with him because Bruce Willis reached out to him like, "Me and you got to do a movie sometime." And he goes, "I couldn't believe it. John McClane wants to do a movie with me, man." And he goes, "I got to work." And he said he just hated the experience. Like Bruce Willis, he felt kind of like phoned in his whole performance in the movie. And they just didn't get along. The movie bombed. Cop Out, I think, was a huge bomb for both of them. And they never worked together ever again. And they kind of just like parted ways. But I think he came out recently, Kevin Smith, and just wanted to show because Bruce Willis came out with that diagnosis. He's got like, not Alzheimer's, what is it? Aphasia. And he
Close
came
to
out.
it.
Yeah,
I think
it
it's
sounds like the
thing.
same thing. And
Sounds like the same thing.
he came out and gave his love and support for Bruce and buried the hatchet, I guess, with him. So
I'll give you two more TV series going back to 90210. I'm pretty sure that the Goo Goo Dolls ended up on 90210. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'll throw you a throwback from the 70s. I'm pretty sure Billy D. Williams appeared on Good Times.
hey now. As what? Do you have any clue as to that?
I
Is
think
there
as himself, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I know he did it. I think he did it Jeffersons.
Or was it?
Listen, I'm getting to the bottom. I don't listen. I was a big Good Times fan. I don't ever remember Billy D being on. I remember Billy D. Williams though being on the Jeffersons because what's her face? Marla Gibbs, Florence the maid, was in love with Billy D. Williams, and he shows up as as Billy D. Williams, and she doesn't believe he's Billy D. Williams.
So let me ask the audience this: for those over the age of 40, are you people? If we had to take an informal poll, would have been What's Happening or Good Times? Which do you prefer? How about
What's
you, Mike?
Happening? Oh man, I liked Good Times. I mean, man, that's such a tough.
It's a tough one, man. Roger rerun. No, Roger.
I mean,
no,
no,
rerun, no rank.
Raj rerun.
Dwayne, right?
Oh, little sister D, Mama, I can't breathe. Shirley,
right?
Oh man.
And then you got Good Times. You got JJ. You got Michael. You got Thelma, James, right? John Amos, right? Flo. Kind of tough, man. I mean, I'm partial to Good Times. I think it's got the better song.
Yeah.
Bookman, who passed away recently.
Yeah, Bookman. Did you know Bookman was more of like a comedian?
I didn't.
He was on like Laughing.
And JJ does those awful freaking, I guess, reverse mortgage commercials or whatever the hell he's doing these days.
He was one of the first guys. They called it like the Jimmy, Gabe, and Freddie syndrome of stand-up comedy.
Hmm.
And right at that time in the 70s, he got the show. He got Good Times. Freddie Prinze got that show, Chico and the Man. And Gabe Kaplan became Mr. Carter. And what happened was those guys were all comedians for a few years. Well, I think Gabe Kaplan was a comedian the longest out of the three of them. And they had like really brief careers. And then their careers kind of like fizzled out after that. And
How about Horseshack?
Horseshack is dead.
No, I know he's dead, but I'm saying, was he a stand-up comedian as well?
No,
Okay.
I don't see any Billy D. Williams on Good Times. But yeah, like those three guys were considered how quick. Like, remember we talked about we talked about this with the Tonight Show, how quick your career could change. Those were like three guys, how their careers changed overnight, where they all did a Tonight Show appearance. And then within less than a year, they were on a hit TV series.
Okay.
And one of the things with those guys, with Jimmy Walker, at least, he wasn't supposed to be the star of the show, but he was like the breakout comedy star.
Okay.
And that's why John Amos actually left the show. He wanted to be like John Amos. I mean, we talked about this too. John Amos was promised basically to be like the Black Archie Bunker. He was going to be Mr. Social Commentary.
Yeah, he was going to be the lead character.
He was going to be the voice and the character of the show, and it just didn't happen. And like I said, Jimmy Walker became that dude, and that's why he left. So,
Interesting.
Where else? What else we got? Oh, with Jay and we talked about Jay and Silent Bob. He kind of has he calls in every favor he had, basically Kevin Smith, to make this movie, and he has everyone. I mean, like Affleck shows up with it. I think Damon's in it. Ton of Marvel characters, people who've been in the Marvel movie. Chris Hemsworth shows up as Thor. It's a pretty good movie. If you're into it, if you're into Jay and Silent Bob, you're gonna love the movie.
I definitely got to check it out. I didn't realize there was a sequel. I know you brought it up to me.
And I think he's starting a Clerks 3 soon or something.
Clerks. I think the best part of Clerks for me was the whole scene about the Death Star, and I guess those.
Yeah, working on the Death Star.
Working on the Death Star being like the equivalent of, I guess, like the people from like Oklahoma City. The federal workers that got killed in the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yeah,
as collateral damage. It was an interesting book, I think, by either Chuck Klosterman or somebody along those lines that broke it down. And, he brought it up as a pretty interesting point, a pretty, interesting analogy, to make at the time. I think that movie was made like in 97, at least the original one. And Oklahoma City, I guess, happened in 94, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I think it might have been even earlier, Clerks, maybe like 95, 96.
You might be right.
He made that movie by maxing out like 5 credit cards. He took cash advances on a whole bunch of credit cards and just made the movie.
Kevin Smith.
Yeah, I think he put himself like $50,000 or $60,000 in debt. Like the movie made for nothing. He shopped it around, and then who helped him? Who made that movie? Or distributed that movie? Harvey Weinstein.
Interesting. I thought it was Affleck and Damon.
No, he signs on with those guys later. But I think it was Harvey Weinstein's company, whatever, I forget the name of it, whatever it was. New Line. They did it. They distributed the movie.
Going back to cameos for a second, what's her face appears in Dogma? Alanis Morissette.
Yeah, Alanis Morissette's God at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
He's made so many. He's made some good stuff. Dogma, I think, is a great movie. It's a trippy road picture.
Wait. You know what? We're missing one of the best cameos of all time. My main man, Otis in Animal House. Otis Knight in the Pips.
Otis Knight in the Pips.
Or whatever. Otis Knight
Day.
in
Otis Day in the Night. Otis Day in the Night.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but he wasn't a singer. That's not a cameo. I don't. he wasn't a singer. He became. You never heard this guy's like life story? He was like an actor, and they were just like, "Can you sing?" And they made the band up, Otis Day and the Knights. He
Right.
he couldn't get any parts really after that. He basically formed Otis Day and the Knights after the movie. He capitalized on it and changed his name, I think, legally to like Otis Day, and then tours the country as Otis Day and the Knights. His real name is Dwayne Jesse. He was an actor. He was in DC Cab.
Oh, that was a great movie.
He was in DC Cab as one of the cab drivers. But he
My main man,
he
Otis.
he realized like I got to make money, and he capitalized, changed his name to Otis Day. Probably hired 4 dudes that could play instruments, and then just toured the country as Otis Day and the Knights. Supposedly, he did tons and tons of college shows, and kids loved him.
Of course, he was great. I mean, he did I guess a takeoff of "Shout," which was an
Mhm.
Isley Brothers song. Which it's interesting. There's a couple of versions of "Shout." There's the Isley Brothers version, and there's another version. And I guess there's a version from Animal House. The DJs out there will know what the hell I'm talking about. And if you play different ones, you may get like a different take on the song. But no, I hear you.
Otis.
My main man, Otis.
Wait till
Like you
Otis
said-
sees us. He loves us.
He loves us.
We are gonna die.
Not something you can joke about these days in 2022, folks. Get you canceled. But that's for another episode. What do you think? I guess another shooting today up in Buffalo. 13
man.
people.
It's great. 10
So-
people dead.
Again, I'm sorry that anybody lost their lives, but I can't stand up for this, the politics of it all. It just seems like the guy's a white supremacist, obviously, in this case. He killed, I guess he traveled to a heavily black area in Buffalo. He shot 13 people, 11 of which I think were African-American, 2 people, 2 guys or 2 people white. And, again, the focus is all on the guy's color of his skin. And, he was radicalized and all this other nonsense versus people actually lost their lives, and whether they're white or black, or whoever the hell they are, it just sucks, man, that people lose their lives. And, it just, the first thing out of anybody's mouth, at least when it comes to the TV and media, is the color of the shooter's skin. Oh, it's a black guy. Oh, see, we told you so. Or it's a white guy. Oh, see, we told you so. He's a radical white supremacist, blah, 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 blah. And it just sucks, that these people, anybody loses their lives in this bullshit. And it's just like they kind of get lost in, I guess, the culture wars today. Just horrible stuff.
Yeah, like as they say in the press, man, the media says it. If it bleeds, it leads. And, if there's any little extra if there's any little more mustard they can put on the ball, that's what they're going to do,
Mhm.
man. I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you said, it's terrible that this fucking idiot just decided to go out and just killed, supposedly live stream. I mean, the guy's a piece of shit, and I hope hopefully he's murdered in jail. But at least they got the guy. I mean, it would have been better if they could have just probably killed him, save everyone a lot of time and effort with a trial. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. And like you said, I mean, this is the world we live in. What are you going to do?
Yeah, no, I agree, Mike.
I just feel bad for the families. You feel bad for the families right now. That's it. And
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I guess with that, we'll wrap it up. Do some
Wrap it.
plugs.
Wrap it up. The Chappelle Show, man. Great device.
Wrap it up, B.
I'll hit a couple plugs in a second or two, but I think the Wrap It Up box was hysterical watching the Chappelle Show this week, and the court stenographer that kind of plays back everything that the other person says
Yeah.
in the room, and then I guess he had a dwarf in a backpack, and he's like, read it back. to me. He's like, if I had to, I would bang Ben Affleck. See, I told you, you're so
Mhm.
gay. And the guy's like, fucking dwarf. You stupid dwarf. Dude, he got away with a lot of stuff, man. But yeah, again, that's for another episode. So thanks, folks, for sticking with us this week. Me and Mike had a lot of technical difficulties. Hopefully, next week we'll get to the bottom of all these shenanigans.
Yeah.
Got the usual plugs for me. You got DJ www.chrisclash. The day of the taping, I actually had my my niece's graduation, which went multiple hours. So I'm kind of worn down here. It went very well. Happy graduation to my niece.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank her. The rest of the life. We got, let's see, Tommy Devitt, Mad Donkey on 36th Avenue. That's going to be in 36th Avenue in Astoria, Queens. We've got 5-star shopping by Tommy, 917-559-8264. We've got Celtic Monkey down in where I am now. Well, I guess Mike's on the coast. Mike Powell from the Mac. He's got the Celtic Monkey. We've got Jay Cristiano at Cardinal Financial. Use the promo code 4215 and call him at 844-442-7334 for refinances and your purchasing needs. Jay works quick and efficient. Got Pierre